Yeah. So you were all at school in Hatherleigh, and how many were in the school?
Oh, I forget now.
Oh dear.
What do you want, Gordon?
No, I brought a photo with me when this is boys beating the bounds.
Oh.
I brought it out, I put them somewhere, I don't know what he's saying.
I haven't got that, no.
What, beating the bounds of the village?
Yeah, they do it every 7 years.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
One Hatherleigh, there's a group of us there.
The last time
There aren't many of them left.
the last time I beat the bounds, I went with your wife was with us and she lost her camera.
Yeah.
I remember that incident when we beat the bounds.
I don't know if you can see that. It's a bit difficult in the bright sunshine.
That's better, but not terribly good. My eyesight's not all that wonderful.
So did you have a school uniform when you were...
Yes.
Tell me about your school
Any old
uniform.
jersey, nail boots, everything.
Yes?
You must be
There wasn't a
joking.
uniform when I went. Well, you older than me. There wasn't none when I went to school.
I
So-
went in nice white aprons.
So, and that was to keep your clothes tidy, yeah.
And the kids would walk in groups of one. There wasn't no school bus
Uh-huh.
at that time.
No,
They'd
you'd
walk
have to
in and the
walk.
weather would be wet. And they come in the dark and they go in the dark.
Right. And what time did you have to be at school?
9 o'clock and you finish 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Long
when I went to
time.
school.
Yeah, they used to come in all streaming wet. They used to hang them around the fireplace and draw their clothes
There'd be an
off.
old black stove in the corner and the caretaker would light that one mornings
And were you all in the same classroom?
no.
Oh no, different
Standard.
classes.
Different
Our
classes.
standard, up to standard 7 of us. They all had different rooms.
So were you two gentlemen in the same class?
No, he's older than me.
Sorry.
Only just.
Both of them are older than me, so they was in different class.
Right.
Cool. No nonsense in, boy.
A wonderful market we had here in Hatherleigh. We've still got the market. Long may it continue. We don't know how long that will be. But in fact, back at that time, that was the Monday market. That was for cattle, for fat cattle, and for store cattle would be on the Tuesday. We had 3 markets during the week. And as you can see here, very well attended with one animal in the ring and the seller in the ring with the animal and the auctioneer on the rostrum, not Joe Vick, but Mr. Bob Wheaton, as I can see from here. Yes, who again was a friend of ours. That's in the lower ring of Hatherleigh Market. And again, you see the farmers all around. An occasion for the market. They wouldn't be all buyers, but they've come in to see what sort of stock so-and-so and so-and-so's got. An occasion for the actual day.
I notice it's all men in the picture as well. What do you have done on market day, Marjorie? Would you have stayed at home?
Usually, sometimes if Geoffrey was selling anything, then I would go, but not just to sightsee, no. I didn't have time.
Yeah. And Geoffrey, how many times would you go to the market in a typical week? Was it once?
I went to the market when I got something to sell or I wanted something to buy. I didn't go regularly or anything like that. I don't think farmers did. Your dealers would be there at the market, but generally people, and of course I was a young farmer, I was a young man trying to make my way, etc. There were other things to do on market day, but if I'd got sheep to sell or cattle to sell, and by the way, we never employed a lorry to take our animals to the market. We drove them from Coombe Farm, and I remember on more than one occasion, then Marjorie would be employed to come in to help drive the sheep down, and we'd go down through the town, turn the corner at the bottom and into the market, and they'd go into the pens.
With a lovely sheepdog.
Yeah. So it was really driving the animals to market back in those days. You couldn't today, obviously, but that was the difference in those days.
Another photo here. Geoffrey, I believe you actually are featuring in this photo.
Yes.
There's a picture of a procession in Hatherleigh, I think.
Absolutely. Well, there we're back to the church. We follow on very conveniently here because this is a parade on Holy Thursday, which in other words is Ascension Day in May, when in fact a vicar of Hatherleigh 2 or 3 centuries ago, the Reverend Craddock Glascott, introduced this parade on Ascension Day to draw people away from other activities, and I won't mention too much about that were happening within the area, the town at that time. And he felt that was not good for children, and so therefore he should introduce something for them to do. So the church Sunday school parade he brought about, and that still happens today. Basically what it is, that wonderful garland of flowers is carried through the streets of the town on that tall pole, and here I am, there's me and my colleague Cecil Denford, who in fact take it in turns, because you can see it's quite a heavy thing to carry, and especially if there's a wind blowing. And then behind that would be the Hatherleigh Town Band, behind that would be the 2 church wardens, and in fact then the whole of the Sunday school behind, carrying lovely floral banners.
And there's a lady here
Carnival.
who's appeared at her doorway to watch the
Yes,
procession. Do you know who that is?
We're coming up South Street, up to the junction with High Street and Higher Street, and that's Mrs. Galley, a dear lady who lived in that little whitewashed cottage right on the end of the street there. She is looking out, and James, standing just in front, has captured her absolutely, looking up at the flowers.
Deborah Langtrenga, I'd like to bring up Hatherleigh Carnival here, because there's it's a fire festival for a start, so there is an element of danger. It has been sanitised to an extent.
Yeah.
But my favourite part of the carnival, I must say, is the night before, when it is, I love the anarchy of it, and they start by pulling the tar barrels, which will then pull the light through the street the following day, or the children of the town pull them up from the bottom of the town up to the top to their position, from where they'll be pulled down again, a light the following day. And there's a huge amount of people come out for that, the smaller children, because it's the only way they'll ever get their hands on the chains that pull those until they're grown up. And now in fact they've got a dedicated team that pull them. It used to be, when I was young, it was great. I would get up, they had the first pull tar barrel run at 5 o'clock in the morning. My father and I lived just outside town, we'd cycle in from when I was about 10 years old. There was very few people around, there's lots of bangers going off. I can remember sitting on a wall having the boys throwing bangers at me, and then it was pitch black, there were no police to be seen, which of course they are there now, just to be on the safe side. They used to tear down the street with those barrels. And also before that, people would stay up all night, which I do occasionally still do if I've got the strength. And a few years ago, for instance, I was just about to go home to bed at about 2:30, 3 o'clock, and people said, no, you must come out. And we went down to the square, and there were loads of people just all having a massive football match in the square, just kicking this ball around. And I love the whole anarchy of that night before, and it's very local. For the carnival the next day, you get a lot of visitors coming in, but they generally only stay a few hours, watch the procession, watch the barrels, and then generally now go home, maybe have a drink or two, but not as much as they used to. And so the Friday night is really for local people, although there have been, again, there's always, for instance, in the middle of the night before the barrel run, there's a piano is set fire to and pulled through the streets and things. If they can't get a piano, they'll do an old sofa or something, anything they can get hold of to burn and drag through the streets. There's people that have made silly little cars and had races, and it's a very steep hill through the town. They will race down there, and yes, they will hurt themselves and fall out. And these are the young men, the late teens, 20s, sometimes 30s, that will do that. Also on that night before, there's usually a gang of men who will dress up and take the mickey out of something very topical, and sometimes it's incredibly near the bone, and things that really, I've had to go, are you really doing that, during foot and mouth and things, and they're very explicit, and it's amazing. I was standing there one day and something was going on that was really quite rude and risky from these chaps, and some little old lady was standing in front of me laughing, going, oh, they're awful, and and it's just, anything's allowed, you can do anything, and I love that about Carnival.